Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another video. I know it's been a little while. I didn't know what the plan was, but I found myself with some free time and a little bit of breaking news, as I'm sure you are all aware. It broke kind of a bit later on last night, so, I'm doing my best to cover it now. I know other events have happened. I won't touch upon the intricacies of court cases or changing at the top with Tiki. Of course, I'll reference the new director of football because it directly links to this headline, as I'm sure you can tell by the title and the thumbnail. And if you are just online at all whatsoever, as it is pretty big news. But in terms of this news, of course, it regards Pep Guardiola and a potential contract extension. Again, you will have only missed this if you've been living underneath a rock. But before I go and break it down and get into the sort of different scenarios that can happen, if you do me a massive favour and please leave a like, it'd be massively appreciated, and subscribe if you are new. But let's talk about this situation, because it's been one that's been brewing for a little while. Because we've talked about this so many times in the sort of recent months, basically from the summer onwards, because at this moment in time he only has until the end of the season left in his contract. His contract expires at the moment at 2025, which would see 9 years, which is probably, at least a good 4 or 5 more than anybody really thought he'd do when he walked through the door. But, 9 years of memories and trophies and success, and the best period that you'll probably ever see in the club's history in terms of dominance and trophies won. And we were always hopeful that he would end up signing a new contract, at least, a 1 year, 2 year, maybe. People were hopeful of maybe even longer than that, but it's come out from the Telegraph, I believe. Yeah, Jason Burt at the Telegraph saying, breaking. Sources have tentatively suggested that the most likely scenario at present is that Pep Guardiola signs another deal at Man City, albeit for just 1 more year. Man City would like him to sign for longer, but would be delighted if he renews, which, that's the latest. If you recall, at the start of the season, Ornstein came out with a little piece. It was, nothing behind it in terms of concrete, this is going to happen, this isn't going to happen. But if you remember back to the summer before the season started, Ornstein did come out, I believe, with, an article which touched on the Pep situation a little bit, saying that, the expectation, again, this was nothing concrete, but the expectation is that, he would leave at the end of his contract, because that's what most people expected. Most people expected that 9 years, Klopp's left, he called it after 9 years, similar time. Long reigning managers aren't the most common thing in modern football anymore, so most people kind of just put 2 and 2 together and thought that after 9 years, there was no strong rumours suggesting or strong links suggesting that he would sign a new one. So the expectation was, from most people, that this would be his last year. And I think that was my expectation. As much as I wanted, the OCD in me wanted him to do 10, just even 1 more just to make 10. My expectations at the start of the season in the summer, before little bits came out, every now and then saying he might. But my expectation in the summer was firmly that he would be leaving. I thought that this would be it. This would be the last season. And that from 2025 onwards, we'd be looking for a new manager, because, if you recall again, those months back, Hugh did say that he had been told that Tiki was going to retire, and Pep was going to go and do something else, whether it's Sparkle or, I can't actually, again, it's a few months back, I can't remember, but I remember that, he said that, and again, we're in the stage where I'll touch on it briefly. Tiki will step down in 2025. That is actually happening. He will retire, and of course we've got this Hugo Viana guy from Sporting to come and step in and take the roles in 2025. I know he's going to come in a few months before that to try and handle the transition really well. And while I don't want to touch on it too much because it's old news, it does actually have a little bit of bearing on this situation, because you would imagine that if Pep Guardiola does sign a contract extension, regardless of how long it's going to be, it will be under a new sporting director, director of football, whoever it is at the top. It'll be under new management. Because, old management or current management is, all of his friends from back in the Barcelona days. And of course, it will be a change for him if he does decide to renew. And, I have no idea whether this will have been brought up, whether this is a thing that Pep has greenlit and said he's okay with. Because obviously we don't know if he's going to stay. But you could imagine that if he is going to extend and he is going to do at least 10 years, do at least one more year after this, then the appointment of Hugo Viana will have been a decision that would have been run through Pep first. This would have been a Pep Guardiola approved appointment if he would have signed. But again, I don't know the situations. Maybe it was just, of course, we need to replace Tiki, but maybe Pep wasn't run through this. Maybe this was an appointment that didn't have the Pep Guardiola seal of approval because we don't quite know what's going to happen himself. I imagine that we will know soon enough. It's usually around November time where he has signed contracts in the past. So we're coming up to crunch time, really, and I've always maintained the stance of, regardless of whether I thought he'd stay, whether I thought he'd leave, because I've been very hopeful in the last couple of months that he would sign an extension, that, I would have thought that we would hear by Christmas at the latest. That is sort of the time frame of, if he's not signed one by New Year, he's probably going to leave, but it won't leak out, of course, until the end of the season, because we don't want to, do what Klopp did at Liverpool and the season unravels, halfway through because he says he's leaving and the players' minds get distracted and that sort of thing. So we will not know for sure until he either signs one within the next couple of months, or, there's a, God forbid, a statement down the line in, 6 months' time saying that this will be it, this will be his last season. But of course, the news that the most likely scenario now has changed, and, the expectation was sort of 2-3 months ago that he would leave at the end of the season has now changed, and 2-3 months later we are now talking about the most likely scenario being a 1-year contract extension. It's phenomenal news. I won't say it's perfect, because obviously we would all rather him to do 2 or 3 more years. I'm sure of it. If not, then I don't know why, but I'll take 1 year. I'll take 1 year and then review it again and see what he wants then. We're trying to extend this period. I do believe that, of course, with this Hugo Viana thing, again, linking it back to the new director of football, we will, in the next few years, need a new manager. That will just be the case. Pep's not going to stay forever. And if he does sign a 1-year contract extension, that takes him up until 2026. And the sporting manager, I believe it's Amorim, his contract expires in 2026. I have seen that on Twitter doing the rounds a little bit. I know I've been very sort of confused as to what we were going to do next if Pep doesn't sign an extension. I've been talking multiple managers. We've had Xabi Alonso thrown about, Michel from Girona thrown about. I think that was kind of everybody's go-to answer because he's just in the CFG. But listen, you never know with the new Sporting structure at the top, coming from Sporting directly, Viana, then you never know. We might end up with Amorim as manager with his contract expiring, and the timeframes will line up. Of course, there's been talk about company at Bayern, but that kind of depends on how he does, and it's all a bit messy. My hope is that he signs at least for another year, because it means we can forget about the transition, because it will be painful. Let's be honest. The 1 or 2 years after Pep, maybe even 3, 4, who knows, will be painful. Regardless of who we get, regardless of what the squad is looking like, we'll have gone from one of the greatest minds ever in football and a serial winner to someone who, again, regardless of who it is, just won't be as good. There's no slight on whoever the next man is. It's just like an impossible task. It's like United when they tried to replace Fergie. I know they went and got David Moyes, and of course the calibre of manager was very, very different, but that was obviously a Ferguson appointment, or a Ferguson approved, candidate. should we say? But it's almost like that situation in terms of whoever comes in next, they're going to have such a hard job. The expectations are still going to be through the roof, and it's not for the faint-hearted. Let's just say that whoever the next man is, whenever that time comes, they've got to have something about them, because again, this is the greatest period that we will ever live. So for however long it lasts, whether it be this season, next season, 2 seasons time, just enjoy it, man. Enjoy it, because it's probably never going to be this good again. But I mean, you let me know what you think of this news down in the comments. Do you actually think he will sign this extension? My heart tells me yes. My head tells me I don't know. My head tells me to believe nothing until it comes out, because I don't want to be broken if it turns out not to be the case. But my heart is telling me it will happen, to be positive, and I've got no reason to not back that. I've got no reason as to why he shouldn't. I think this is the best place. He knows this is the best place currently for him. And we'll just see what happens. But thanks for watching. Do me a massive favour. Please leave a like on your way out this video. Be massively appreciated. And subscribe if you are new. And regular football is resuming at the weekend. So if nothing else breaks, I will see you at the weekend for, I believe it is, Wolves.